All right, we're going to leave. Professional development for Health Trust and Workforce Solutions, the staffing arm of the HCA Healthcare.
Here we are.
For-profit healthcare system in the U.S.
We're live here at the 2022 Executive Leadership Conference here in New Jersey Staffing Alliance here at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino here in New Jersey, Atlantic City. Getting ready for John Ruffini's presentation. What a great turnout it looks like. Let's go in and hear what's going on.
This past year in the company's history in 2022. John is the author of Moneymakers, Proven Ways to Increase Sales and Productivity in the World of Professional Recruiting, which has been on the Amazon bestseller and is used by staffing firms across the country to train the recruiters and instill recruiting fundamentals that are so critical to long-term success. John is also the co-host of the recruiting industry's only weekly unscripted live stream broadcast, Recruiters with No Limits. Welcome, John.
It's time for John Ruffini. Here he is.
Can you hear me okay?
No.
No?
Bring it up.
What did I do that? Is that better? No? I'll just shout.
No.
I can do that. So I'll keep it on just in case it picks it up. I'm going to do a little bit more. You guys work? How about that? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is great to be here, and I thank you guys so much for the opportunity and the privilege to be a part of this day. I meet most of you for the first time. Mike and I go back, we used to work together, so I can't thank you guys enough for inviting me here to be here. I can't thank you also for having such a great venue where I can contribute to the local economy so easily. Those wonderful little machines that light up. I don't understand slots. Can someone explain them to me? I don't like playing them. My wife does. And I'll sit there. I was talking with Matt last night at the cocktail hour, and it's like she'll press play and she'll win. I'll be like, "Do you know how you just won?" And she'll be like, "No." And I don't either. There's like 15 different combinations. So I feel much more empowered when I sit at a blackjack table, feeling like I have some control over it. When in reality, of course, it's all on. Anyway. So I've really enjoyed the program today so far. And I've got some things in common with our first two speakers. So I thought it was interesting. So like Lee and like Cornell, you'll find that I'm very passionate about our industry. I'm very passionate about what we do and the way in which we do it. I'm also passionate about never being satisfied and always trying to find a better way. I'm also married. So I've got Lee beat. I'm 31 years this July. To the same woman. I'll clarify that. I got 3 great kids, a little older, 25-year-old son, and girls 23 and 22. That's where we're similar. Where we're different, I know it's hard to believe, but I was not a college athlete. I did not. But when Lee mentioned he went to Penn State, I cringed for a minute because I'm from the great state of Maryland, even though I live in Florida right now. And I grew up 6 blocks from my alma mater, University of Maryland, where I graduated. To this day, I say I bleed Terrapin blue. I took Terrapin red. In my youth, Penn State football destroyed us so bad year over year that we physically took them off the schedule. It wasn't until we joined the Big Ten that now we were forced to play you again every year. I have a real recurring memory of one time, I'm a kid, I'm in the stands, and at halftime it was 22-22 with Penn State. And we thought, this is going to be the year. We lost 42-22. So that hurt. So no, I'm not a college athlete. And unlike them, I will have slides. However, or backdrop. I use slides to guide me. Okay, and when putting this this session together, there was so much information. I usually also don't carry notes around, but I reserve the right to look at them from time to time just to make sure I don't miss anything. Okay? Because one recurring theme that we've heard today, we mentioned it, Cornell mentioned it, is engagement. And one thing you'll recognize when managing in today's world, that aspect of our role is more important than ever before. So what I want you guys to walk away from this session from is, number one, getting a good idea of what engagement looks like. Number two, I want to share with you some easy and efficient ways to empower your recruiters to foster a culture more of self-accountability. Three, I want to talk about some ways that we can effectively manage virtual employees, because now that's a thing, if it wasn't before. And four, how to inject a little bit of fun into the workplace. Is that cool? What do you guys think? So go back the last 5 to 10 years. It's not pandemic excluded, but it impacted. What are your challenges now as managers that are different from 5 or 10 years ago?
You know, they just keep on hopping jobs again.
Job hopping. Okay, retention is an issue, definitely. Okay. Any other challenges?
When we communicate with the candidate base,
Very good. The way we communicate with the candidate base.
it used to all be on the phone, and now it's.
How about that? What's the phone?
Yeah.
Right? Like many of you, when I started, it was just pick up the damn phone. I used to have a manager walk by and say, call somebody. And say, who? He goes, I don't care. Just call somebody. What other challenges are you facing today that are different from years past?
Work ethic.
Work ethic. Okay, very good.
Lack thereof.
Lack thereof.
You know, you don't hire someone who can't complete a sentence without
He has no employees.
Very good. What else?
Cell phone.
Cell phone.
Cell phone.
Distractions. It's become a distraction, but oddly enough in our world, it's also become a necessity. So that's the quandary. Is how do you bridge it and how do you use it to your advantage? These are all great. What you're going to see is that engagement can help you with all of these issues. And I'll show you how. Okay? All right. So that's what we're going to cover today. All right? And we're talking about engagement on a number of fronts. We're talking about engagements between you and your recruiters, engagements between your recruiters and your candidates, engagement between your recruiters and your clients. So engagement is the theme. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about candidate and client engagement, and then I'm going to get into actual production management and engagement with your teams. So we've got to understand, you mentioned the cell phone. We are in a different world today, okay? There are multiple mediums at the recruiter's disposal. And back in the day, the challenge was finding talent. Now that's not the challenge. We can find the talent. It's everywhere. The challenge is engaging with that talent. How do you get their attention? So we need to use multiple mediums at our disposal, because 9 times out of 10, that first interaction, that first outrage in today's world is electronic, whether it's text or email. But where we fall short sometimes is instilling in our recruiters that at some point, in order to form that lasting relationship, which our industry is still grounded on, you need to either get on the phone or get in front of them and actually have a conversation, you know? I didn't even get a charity laugh at you. Okay? So it's important to understand what we're working with and what branding looks like. And with social media, it's also important that your recruiters understand that not everything's a job board. If they get out on Facebook, they get out on LinkedIn, and all they're doing is they're posting what they're recruiting for. And that's not engagement. You've got to understand, today's world, all these social platforms are in play. For the first time in my life, because I'm in the healthcare industry, that just got louder. I'm in an industry where Facebook is an excellent other thing. You're doing a great job. Where Facebook is an excellent source of candidates. I had a recruiter go through my training within the last year, and in her first month, she had 25 travelers out working. most of them through Facebook. Why? Because she was engaged with the platform. What does that mean? That means instead of posting jobs, I'm going out there and I'm jumping into conversations and I'm showing my expertise and I'm empathizing with what they're going through. I'm seeing what my competitors are posting and I'm commenting, saying, that's great, call me, I've got something just like it. So I'm also sharing industry news. I'm sharing news about my industry, my market, what companies are hiring, what companies are growing, what earnings reports were there. So I'm engaging with the platforms because the way these platforms work, the more you give, the more that you get from it. And the internal algorithms are connected as such. So if I'm engaged with the platform and I am commenting and I'm responding, then when I put something out there, that platform will share it with more people. So that engagement is important, but too many recruiters just post a job. Too many recruiters will get a message, and if it's not anybody they can work with, they don't reply to the message. That's not engagement. It's not just about what's in it for me. It's about what's in it for everybody. So I always tell people, I'm that person that if you call me and leave a voicemail, I will return your call. If you email me, I will respond to your email. If you message me on any social platform, I will respond to you because I want to be engaged. And that's where our recruiters have to be, that level of engagement. Now, we don't want them living on the social media all day. However, if we can teach them to budget time accordingly and be disciplined about it, it can help them generate candidate flows that they wouldn't ordinarily get. And it also improves the brand of themselves and of your company. But it's got to be that engagement. It's not a job board. You put something out on LinkedIn, I'm recruiting for XYZ, don't expect to get flooded with resumes. It just doesn't work that way. Okay, so we've got to understand what's different about talent attraction now. I have a thing up there, it's not about likes. Now, many of the youth will tell you that's wrong. And on Instagram, I'm sure it is about likes. It's more about views. So if you put something out on social media, especially LinkedIn, which is like a recruiter's best friend now, it's not how many people liked it, it's how many people viewed it. Because if someone viewed it, then their network is going to see it too. So the more views you get, and how do you get more views? Consistency. It's just engaging with the platform, sharing content, and replying to everybody who replies to yours. So those are the types of things we need to be teaching our recruiters and making sure that they are actively engaged, not just posting and praying. We are in a great time. It's a great time to be a recruiter. Now, that also contributes to a lot of turnover, which is your challenge, because I've never seen more advertising for recruiters in all my life. But it's a great time. We don't necessarily, we're job order rich. There are companies waiting to give us job orders. And I always say you can never have too many good job orders. But that doesn't mean that every job order is good. So we have to ask ourselves, whether it's your recruiters or your account managers, how engaged are they with their client base? Are they just taking orders, filling out forms, accepting a job description to be a job order, or are they engaging with them to really figure out, is this something worth my time? Because every recruiter who brings in a job order will tell you that their order is the hottest one, and they want everybody working on it. We as leaders need to engage with our recruiters and teach them what's a good job order, what's a bad job order. There should be a process in place that we qualify orders. Because otherwise, we're going to be running rampant, running rogue, and everybody's going to be working on their own stuff saying, I'll fill this because I think it's a good order. I don't think it's a good order. Have a process. Talk about process and consistency. All right? So are your recruiters going out and really figuring out what your client needs and wants? Are they coming back with information to help sell the company? And have they really established a working relationship that's going to be expected between recruiter and client? Or are they just being an order taker and going back and hoping to find somebody good? We waste a lot of time working on bad job orders. And I don't care how rich the job order market is or how poor it is, it shouldn't stop us from walking away from bad job orders because we waste our time. So if you don't already have something, set up a list of criteria that determines whether or not it's a good job order. And my recommendation is engage with your team, if you don't already have this, to co-develop this list. Because you want everybody to stick with it, from the top producer down to the rookie. All right? So everybody typically has a demand area of expertise. Is the job order in that demand area? If you're an accounting recruiter, there's no reason why you should be taking an administrative assistant job. I don't care if it's for your best client. It's not your area of expertise. Do what you do best, pass on the rest. How are the client's expectations? Are they willing to pay what the market will yield? Make sure you come with data. How flexible are they? Are they willing to stretch? Do you feel the commitment? You get the sense that you're going to have a good bit of control. My barometer for that was always, if I can get my client to agree to come to my office to interview my candidates for half a day, that's a pretty good level of control. That was always very good. Sense of urgency. When do clients always need the button to see? ASAP. It's not acceptable. You got to tell them that's not acceptable. Give me a start date. Put that calendar. When do you want this person to start? A, as a recruiter, I need to be able to engage and have a conversation to tell you whether or not that's realistic. Because a lot of our clients still don't understand what you do and how long it takes to do it. So they just think they give us a job order, we get on to aisle 7 and it's a thing. Okay. So is there a sense of urgency? If your client can't give you a start date, you got to question, is there a sense of urgency? Do they really want this? Just like the client that's been interviewing for 6 months, has seen 150 clients, but not with that. Yeah. So are we engaging to have that conversation? Can we sell the opportunity? Any industry we recruit for, the candidate's going to do what they do wherever they do it. You have to figure out why they should go do it at this new company. So is there a sell? You get excited about it. And what might be the thing? Again, why am I going to send somebody my best candidate if they're not willing to pay for them? Again, we should be bringing quality candidates to clients that they can't find on their own. They'll never apologize for charging full price for it. Now, if they meet all those criteria, that to me is an A order. Get to work on it, it's hot, it's going to move, and it's going to close. If they meet some of them, it's a B order. You're still going to work on them, but maybe as I'm planning my day and my week, I'm not going to spend as much time. And if it doesn't meet those criteria, take it out the back. So that's your client. Explain and engage with your folks how you can make it in a order. If your client's not willing to do that, let them know that at this point we're not the best option. And walk away from it. Don't waste your time. But engage with that client, explaining, hey, here's why you're not. And if we can improve a little bit on here, then I can guarantee you and I can allocate some resources to improve the work. If not, there's just too much other work that needs work. But that engagement is missing. A lot of times we take a job order knowing full well we're never going to supply candidates for it. And that's a disservice to the client and you. And all because the recruiter probably doesn't want to have that conversation with the client. We need to teach them how to do it. They need to engage with that client. I'm going to share with you a couple ways that you easily create a culture of self-accountability. One of them is pipeline management. This is arguably one of the biggest struggles with every recruiter. Okay, so you have to do forecasting, everybody. You walk up to a recruiter and you say, how much you need to bill this month? He says, 30K. Okay, get that right now. It's not even going to be 30K. Why do you know where 30K is coming from? And when you're using them to engage in that challenge, to help them realize that either has enough going on or doesn't have enough going on to meet that 30K. A lot of times, especially in the direct hire world, which is the world I came out of, you start at 0 every month. So I can say, yeah, I'll bill 30K this month, I'll bill 60K this month, I'll bill 100K this month. Okay? And then you do a forecast, and Johnny gives you 10K. And you're off by God knows how much because you got a team of 10 and everybody does it that way. You forecast them together. So this is an important lesson for your people to know. And it all starts with understanding the market. If you've got a good grip on your market, and you're engaged enough with your market to understand, okay, what is on any given day, any given year, what is my average firm fee? And this is skewed to direct hire. You can adapt it to contract with margins, etc. And if I understand about what is my send out to placement ratio, it's going to be different for your rookies. It's going to be a little higher. More seasoned recruiters can be as low as 1-to-1. Submission to send out, interview to submission, how many calls you got to get a fee-worthy candidate. All those ratios help you do something very important, which is often missing in the engagement with our teams, and that's explaining why the activity they do is so important. A lot of times, and you see me reference this later on, we talk about metrics, so we're going to talk about what do you measure. Phone calls, phone dials, outbound, inbound. Now we're looking, okay, we've got to consider two-way text messaging and communication, email, all that kind of stuff. We ask our recruiters to make a certain number of calls, to have a certain number of send-outs. Do we explain why that's important? Well, you want to make money? Yeah, I know that. But do we explain that years of research show that if you don't have a lot going on, you won't have enough going to the bottom line? So if Johnny wants 30K, what does Johnny have to do? Well, there's a tool that if you don't already have it, or have something like it, I wanted to share with you. Hopefully this will work. And you guys will have access to this. You can download it from the NGSA website. This is rudimentary. You cannot open it. Why did I know it didn't happen? Okay. Denise, do we know, is that file on this, on the desktop? All right. I'm going rogue. Hang on. All right. Always find a way, as Cornell said. No, it's not showing up there. Why? Bear with me because I do want to show you guys this. It's on my screen, but it's not on that screen. What's that? Okay. So what I'm going to show you is a tool that basically empowers your recruiters. So it starts with, okay, let me ask you another question. When you talk to recruiters, on a show of hands, every year, you sit down with each recruiter and ask them how much money they want to make. How many people do that? Okay. Not how much money that you need them to make, but how much money they need to make. Okay? That's an important conversation because that dictates everything. You know, I need you to bill $350K this year. No, I need to know how much you want to make. Then that will dictate how much I need you to bill. And hopefully our numbers aren't too far off. 9 times out of 10, you'll find that the recruiter's take home will need them to bill more than you actually need to meet your quota or your forecast. That's okay. We'll come back to it.
That can also apply to sales, right?
Good. At least I have done it now. I'm going to forget about this. And I'll go here. And here. Like that. Yes, it can apply to sales too. So because technically, you know, ours is mostly a commission-based model, whether it's full commission, which probably doesn't exist anymore, or base and some commission on top. You can outline, okay, if every fee, say, is, give me an average fee in direct hire world nowadays in the market. Average fee.
30K.
30K, fine. So in the model that, in the model that you'll be able to download, it assumes that every deal is going to be split between two people. So it assumes a 50-50 split. You can cater it and adjust it so that it meets whatever your splits are in your office. If a recruiter has a double-sided deal, if they're running a full desk, that's all the better. Gets them there quicker. But it assumes that every deal is going to be 50-50. Starts with a 30K fee. Then I put in my ratios. If I'm a rookie, statistics say that my submission to send out rate, or my send out to placement ratio is probably going to be anywhere from 5 to 8 to 1. Because I'm still learning the business. If I'm a more experienced person, it's usually 1-to-1 or 2-to-1, because I know my clients, I know my candidates. Okay? Submission to send out, how many people do I have to present to the client to get a send out? So we gotta know that. Okay, that is actually the old slide, it's the old deck. We're in trouble again, it is. That's okay. So what it does, it breaks down, you put in that, the ratios at the top of the chart, you press enter and everything else populates, and it shows how much activity on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis that recruiter needs to do in order to meet their goal. So if their goal for that month is whatever it might be, you put in the goal also, and it will tell you how many placements they need to make, and based on that, how many people they need to be interviewing, how many submissions they need to be doing, and how many send-outs they need to be having at their clients on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. By doing that, you are putting the control in their hands, and you're laying it out. Hey, this is why I'm asking you to do this activity. Because it's not just going to materialize. And if they can understand that, then they'll tend to be more productive. Hey, Denise, I am going to run into trouble because this is the old deck. Sorry. All right. So it's important because you're going to empower your people. And by doing that, they become self-accountable. They are now in control of their business, more so than if you don't do something like this. And by putting them in control, it makes your job as a manager a little bit easier. Because you're expecting them to keep track of their business. Okay? You do the same for your salespeople. How much are we guiding them? Or are we just simply throwing them out there to the wolves and saying, go generate business? And when I first started, my first manager came back from training. He said, there's your desk. Let me know if you need it. He walked away. That was all of 1 week into the business. We tell our salespeople, whether it's a split desk model or a full desk model, hey, go get business. But are we helping to define what a good client looks like? And how much time they should be engaging with that client? How often? Are they a current client of ours? Are they a company that's done business with us pretty regularly? Well, that should be someone that should be a top-tier client. You should be touching them on a weekly basis. High engagement. Are they a company that's currently working with our competitors, but not with us? Okay. Let's also engage with them pretty regularly. But they're not a current client, so I'm going to knock them down a tier. And are they a company that randomly, sporadically might have 1 or 2 job orders throughout the year? All right, that's my lowest tier. I don't even be going to see them every month. But as managers, we have to help build these lists. We have to show them what it means so that they can plan their time accordingly so that they can do the activity to meet their goals, and they know that the activity is time well spent on high-value targets. Otherwise, it may or may not be. Is this all making sense? So that engagement, we engage with them to show them how to engage properly with who they're going after. And it all dovetails. God bless you. We look forward to that. You're on it. Thank you. Big round of applause for her, please. Thank you so much. Now I know why you don't have to slide. All right. So I'm not going to, I also reserve the right to click fast because I don't want to bore you with this stuff. It's repetitive. But just know that your salespeople know where to invest their time. Okay, the more we empower them and help them understand where to invest their time, the better they're going to manage their own business. Otherwise, we're just assuming that they know. Okay, let's use the knowledge we have and help them. Because some things in our industry, while the industry changes and we have to adapt as it evolves, there are certain fundamentals that don't change. This is one of them. Okay, effective time management is the Achilles heel of many a recruiter. So make sure that we are engaging with them and help them understand where they should be spending their time. All right, I'm going to fast forward again. We use multiple methods of communication. Again, multiple mediums. Help them to understand their clients, just not as places where they have job orders, but do they know their business? Have they engaged with their client to find out what is a profile that you always want to see? Is there a university you like to see candidates come out of? Is there a skill that you have? What software do you use? Again, if I'm not having that engaging discussion and they're just giving me a job description, I never get to that point. But there's so much gold in those conversations. Are there peak times in the year? How many people do accounting placements? Okay. Tax season? Other industries have peak times where they're going to ebb and flow. Know that. And be proactive about heading it off. Okay, and how many times do we actually inspect when a deal falls apart? You guys do that? When you lose a deal? Good. What do you look at?
The reasons, what we could have done to prevent it, why it fell apart.
Reasons, what you could have done to prevent it, why it fell apart? But let's say you do have a successful deal. So your recruiter brings in a job order, fills it with one of your friends' candidates. Tell me all the scenarios tell me all the facts about that placement. What do we know about that in that case? So you filled a job.
Client was responsive, turnaround time, and
Turnaround time was bad.
specs were realistic with the marketplace.
Every time you fill an order, what happens?
We use it, yeah.
It improves the relationship, think deeper, you make money. Every time we fill an order,
It opens up
thank
another.
you, who said it? Let's give these love. Every time we fill an order, somebody just left the job. We forget about that. Are we engaging with our recruiters and helping them learn that that's how the business works? And that every time a job gets filled, we need to find out. Now, if we fill the job, we know where the person came from. And chances are, any candidate that didn't get hired, they're probably good for that job. So are we now proactively going there? Somebody said to me, would you tell that person that you're the one that recruited the person out? I'm like, if they ask, I'm transparent. That's what we do. I've never been ashamed of what I do. If we don't fill the job with our candidate, it comes from another firm, well, if we're working with that client, are we bold enough to have a discussion? Would you mind sharing with me where that person came from? Because I've got some people that would be a great opportunity for, and I'd like to introduce them to that person. People are afraid to have that engagement. Yes?
I think another thing too is when we lose the sale, we tend to really focus on that and say, why did we lose the sale? But when we win a sale, I think we don't ask enough questions, not just from the people involved, but from the actual client, because sometimes their response is not going to be what you had expected, and you're going to be able to gain another viewpoint on how you attract other clients. So I think it's really important not only to, ask people, why did we lose that sale, but why did we win that sale? Ask your client, why did we win that sale? Why did you go with us? Because you may get an answer that's very unexpected.
It's a great point. If you didn't hear in the back, we audit deals that we lose all the time, figure out why didn't we get the deal, or why didn't we get the sale. We don't always ask, why didn't we get the sale? What made you come with us? We also don't often go up and say, okay, how was our process? What could we do better? A lot of times we fill a job, we don't care. Recruiter gets the feed, moves on. We want long-term relationships, we need more engagement than that. And we'll be better off for it. So let's talk about your teams, yes?
The one time you don't know the answer to these questions, so when you're working with a vendor on price, to them, you're just a number. And they're not going to give you feedback on why you did or did not fill.
That is true. When you're working with a vendor on premise, or a corporate recruiter for that matter, you don't get that feedback. So yes, if we don't have a direct line to the hiring manager and the decision makers, you're absolutely right. We don't get that because to that other person, our rec was just one of thousands. So they don't know. Nothing frustrates a recruiter more when they're working with a third party in between the hiring manager and you say, why was my candidate turned down, not qualified? How come? That's all I know. Not good enough. That's a job order. I stopped working. And I tell them that. Because based on what you told me initially in our conversation, I provided what you were looking for. You asked for ABC, my candidate had ABC, didn't get hired. Unless you can clarify for me why that didn't happen, I cannot recruit for you because I'm giving you what you told me to do. And if they can't, then I withdraw and I go get another job where I can work on. I'm not just going to keep throwing darts and missing, not knowing what I'm going after. So that's an instance where you walk away. As attractive as it may sound to stay there and try and participate, you walk away and you find somebody that values your service better. Today's workforce, pretty unique. We talked about work ethic, talked about turnover. Anybody know why those are more prevalent in today's marketplace and workforce than before?
Work from home.
What's that?
Work from home.
Work from home plays into it. Goes beyond that. 55% of our workforce today is either millennial or Gen Z. It's a different breed. And it's not all bad. Statistics have shown, they get a little bit of a bad rap. Oh, they're lazy. Oh, they're unproductive. Studies actually show if they are passionate and engaged with the work they're doing, they can be the most productive generations of our time. The thing is, if they're not passionate about it, they'll go. It's not just about the job, it's about the cause. They've got to believe in what they're doing. And if they don't feel engaged with you as their leader, they're gone. Because this generation sees work as social. The people that they engage with at work, they're also hanging out with on weekends. They're going to happy hours with. It's more social. There was a time in not so distant past where you had your work people and you had your friends. Well, now those lines are blurred with these generations. So they need engagement. Work from home hurt a lot of these people because all of a sudden they were socially isolated. Depression all over the place. It was awful. So we have to be in tune with that. Right? The sad thing is, while it shows that if these people are engaged, they will be very loyal and productive. Gallup studies, on average, show that right now only 15% of the workforce feels engaged. That means 15% feel some sense of belonging and engagement to their workforce. That's a problem. Because that means that we're going to have continual higher turnover. All right? We've got to work on that. So, you mentioned work from home. Flexibility is a big issue right now. There are people leaving companies. We've lost them from our company. They go to the manager, say, you know what, I want to work from home full time. Manager says nope. They say, okay, bye, because they know they can find a job where they can work from home. That's the market we live in. So if you want to retain your people, you got to be flexible with them and work with them a bit. So you have to make the decision, are they worth being flexible with? But you'll get higher retention if you do. We've gone through 2 years of isolation. We're starting to reconnect. How many before the pandemic, how many were 100% remote? Okay. During the pandemic? Post-pandemic, how many are 100% remote? How many are hybrid? How many 100% back in the office? Okay, we got a little bit of everything, good. You can decide what you want to decide and hire for that culture. But just know that in today's workplace, and we're going through it now, our parent company has laid out the verdict, hey, you got to come back to work full time. We're probably not following suit because we already know that we will lose a ton of people. We will lose a ton of recruiters. Because guess what? During the pandemic, we went from a 100% in the office company to over a 2-week period to a 100% remote company. And we found a way. We learned that it could be done. So now, if you've proven you can do it remote or hybrid, which is more than likely where we're headed, where we are now, I think we're going to stay there. Why should you then force your people to now come back in if they want that flexibility? Bottom line is, if you choose to make that decision, just accept the fact that you will lose people. Because in today's market, there are other companies out there willing to hire. Sidebar, I used to say that people don't leave for money, they leave their managers, which is still true to a point, but in this market, they're leaving for money. We've seen ridiculous money for recruiters, inexperienced recruiters. And what they don't realize is that probably in 2 or 3 months, when they don't produce, they're going to get laid off. But initially, they go, and they hope they can succeed. But I've also seen people turn down ridiculous offers because they felt such a connection to the people they work with and the company they work for. And this generation, more than ever, if they feel that connection, they will be loyal as hell. But if they don't, they're gone. We're going to talk about engagement. You've got to understand how your people like to be recognized. Some like public recognition, others don't. So you've got to be in tune with that. And what technology are you using? So in remote, okay, so we enter the world of Zoom and Microsoft Teams. If the technology is easy to use and it adds value to my business, I will enjoy using it. If you make my business more difficult because I have to use certain technologies, that's not going to go well. So we've got to always be evaluating, is the tech stack that we're using the most advantageous? Is it making our people's jobs easier, or is it adding levels of cumbersome work to their day? All right. When you are managing, obviously we keep tracking metrics. I mentioned this before. It's important to explain the why. If they don't know why you're measuring something or how it benefits them, then they're just going to do it to do it. The last thing you want is a recruiter making a phone call simply to put a check in a box to say, yes, I made my 100 calls. But what they have to understand, and if we're not engaged, they don't get this, is as your leader, I need you to make a lot of calls, because if you're not getting success, I can then dive in and say, who are you calling? What kind of messages are you leaving? Because they're not calling you back. You're submitting a lot of candidates, or you're interviewing a lot of candidates, but you're not getting any submittals. Let's see who you're interviewing. You're submitting a lot of candidates, but your client's not interviewing anyone. Well, where are we missing the boat? They're interviewing a lot of people, you're just not getting the offers. So we can dissect at every level if the activity is there. But if you just got this much activity going on, it's hard to see any trends. We have to explain that why to them, and why it's so important. If we do a good job of explaining that on the front end and then demonstrate it in action, eventually they'll do it themselves. And that's what we want. How do you define a good day? How's that for a loaded question? Seriously, anybody? How do you define a good day? What does a good day look like for a recruiter in your company?
Meaningful,
Define meaningful.
like making a connection, having a piece of success somewhere in the day, or
Okay.
multiple.
Okay. Having success during the day. Anyone else? How do you define a good day? What's a good day look like for you?
It's a productive day.
Productive day. Okay. What does productive mean?
Productive means that I'll be able to accomplish a lot of my tasks throughout the day.
Accomplish a lot of tasks throughout the day. Okay. How do you define a good day?
Comfortable with the amount of effort that I put into that day.
Comfortable with the amount of effort he puts in. Everyone's got a different definition of what a good day looks like. So here's where the challenge comes from us from an engagement perspective. I see a couple people smiling. You see where I'm going. If we can't clearly and consistently define what a good day looks like for our recruiters, how can we manage them and how can we hold them to a standard of metrics? What we measure should correlate directly into what a good day looks like. If they don't, then that's where the disconnection happens. You're saying, well, most recruiters have that same rep. What's a good day look like? You'll get 10 different answers. It's kind of like when we were talking about a common goal earlier. You made me think, because I'm like, if we go to our recruiters and say, what's our goal? They're not all going to say the same thing, and that scares me. So if you ask someone, what's a good day look like? They should know. A good day for us looks like this. And it should tie into what you're measuring and expecting of them. Because, as the old saying goes, people will respect what they expect, you will inspect. But if they don't know why you're inspecting it, and why you expect it of them, then they just won't get it. There'll be a disconnect. Does that make sense? You had your hand up. Do you have a comment? Okay. you kind of had like a soft raise.
I was just thinking back to similar to what you were saying. I don't recall. We kind of say the same thing in our company. It has to be measurable to understand that it's good day or not. So
So one, yeah, it has to be measurable. And it's interesting because we then have to, okay, I'll give you an example. This just popped into my mind. So we talk about making 100 calls. We had a recruiter one time in our Nashville office. His call time was good. His call volume was good. But thanks to technology, when we looked at the call log, he was calling the local Target store a bunch of times because he had to meet his numbers. So what did management do? Fire him. What could management have done? Seek first to understand. Stephen Covey once said. Why is he doing that? Crying out for his help. And as leaders, we have to ask ourselves, have we invested the proper resources into helping that person be successful? If we have and they're not applying it, shame on them. If we have not and they're failing, shame on us. We can't expect that these people come in and be rock stars. They need some level of guidance and we need to set expectations. So was that person called in and said, why are you doing this? And where are you having trouble? And maybe there's something going on in this person's life that's really screwing with them and it's affecting their work. I don't know if they ever had that in-depth conversation, but I hope they did. Again, drill down, get that engagement going. It's important. Let's talk about your remote people. It's hard to manage them. Can't see you, so how do I know that you're working? Don't have that deal. I can't walk down, with communication, I can't walk to the office and just share what's going on. Can't rally the troops together and let's have a board meeting and let's talk about what's important. A little bit difficult, so there tends to be a lag in the dissemination of information, which causes a feeling of disconnection and isolation. So we run into stuff like this. Also, while working at home was awesome for a lot of people, I didn't know how people in our company with small children survive. I look, my hat goes off to them. I don't know how to do it. I don't have kids at home anymore. It's crazy because all of a sudden your home is your work is your home. There's no separation.
Funny. Yesterday, bring your kids to work day. So my son didn't go to school. He said, "Mommy, I'm gonna sit next to you. You're working from home."
Hey, he's not wrong. Bring your kid to work. Have a seat. Watch me. That's funny.
It's also very difficult to train people remotely.
Oh my gosh. He said, very difficult to train people remotely. So you're absolutely right. It's so hard. We're learning that because for the first time, because of the pandemic, we're hiring remote recruiters. Again, recruiters were scarce. So we realized, you know what? We're just going to find the best talent wherever they are because they can do their job. But what we learned was they better have a proven track record of success and know how to do it because training them is going to be difficult. And we've done some remote training. We do all of our training virtually now because we started with the pandemic and it was just more cost effective than to fly everybody into a location. But with the remote recruiters, if they don't have experience prior to joining your firm and proven experience of success, it's much more difficult. I agree with you totally. Hard to train and hard to orient them. What about company orientation? Everything's remote, everything's online. Again, that feeling of belonging and connection, it's harder. There's no looking past that. You are correct. So how do we deal with these things? Well, if it's a remote person, you got to over-communicate with those people. But it's got to be a structured situation. Okay, set boundaries. How are you to be communicated with? How do they like to be communicated with? And do so frequently. It's not to micromanage them, but it's to let them know that you are there for them when they need you, and you want to make sure that they get the information. Okay, so we got to establish those rules of engagement. You got to let them know when you're available. If you're in the office, you can just come over to me and ask me a question. You can knock on my door. Got a minute? You busy? If you're remote, you got to send me an IM. So as a manager, I've got to be responsible for that IM. I can't just let it sit there. I can't go days without it. So it makes our lives a little bit more challenging. And they've got to know what we tell our remote people is remote. If you're 100% remote, there's a higher expectation. Now we have some serious producers that went 100% remote during the pandemic. Well, they earned that. Top biller in our company moved from South Florida to Orlando, bought himself a house, and he's like, I'm gonna work here for the rest of the duration. And he's still crushing. That's a little different. It's a new hire. You need to let them know, in no uncertain terms, the expectations are higher for you because you're not here. Because if you are here, you're in a hybrid role. Some offices, you're in the office all the time until you reach a certain level of production, then you earn the right to go hybrid. That's not also a bad thing to do. We do that in our Florida office. Nashville established, you know what? Everybody wants to work from home Monday and Friday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, everybody's in. So culturally, figure out what works, but do that with your teams so that you're not dictating, you're including them. That way you get buy-in better. Clarity and consistency are your best friends. They're even your better friends if people are remote. So when you have a meeting with a recruiter and you're having a discussion about what you expect, when you're remote, even when you're not remote, follow it up with an email. Hey, just as a recap, here's what we talked about. Here's what you're going to do. Here's what I'm going to do to help you. Here's what we're going to do to discuss progress. And here's what's expected. Make sure they understand. And sometimes that means you got to back up your verbal discussion with a written one. Yes, it's a pain in the butt, but it's good engagement and it's clarity. And consistency is also key. Again, they've got to know what's expected of them. Outlook has a wonderful feature where you can look at my calendar and I can look at yours. So you can see when I'm available and when I'm not. I hate that because wherever there's white space, people tend to put a meeting on it. Can't stand it. And oh, the only gap in your schedule is between 12 and 1, so we're going to meet. Can I get up to go to the bathroom? You know, it's crazy. So let's talk a little bit about communication. So this is a mixing statistic. And I'll look down because I don't want to get it wrong. I'm not. This is part of it. Better communication increases productivity up to 30%. Again, it's that engagement, it's that sense of belonging, it's that sense of understanding, being on the same page. It's a sense of, oh, wait a minute, I didn't know so-and-so left the company. When did they leave? A week and a half ago? Okay, would have been nice to know that. Who's got their accounts? Oh, Dave gave them to Mary. Really? Why did Dave give them to Mary? Well, she's in the office. Just saying. Clarity and communication are huge. All right? The more structured we can be, then the better our recruiters can live their lives. Email after email after email. Copying everybody and their mother. There's a lot of information overload. You got to think. Are these people really impacted by what I'm communicating? Do they need to be on this email? Do I need to reply all? For God's sake, we had people at my company go over Christmas gifts from a catalog because we didn't have a company party because of COVID and everything. So, got an email saying, all right, everybody on this list, you ordered a sweatshirt. I need your size. You'd be surprised how many people replied all to that email. I don't care if you're medium or large. It's just basic common sense, and that frustrates people. So we got to be careful of information overload. Don't overmeet. Be structured again, and get clarity. When you meet, who can tell me what meeting recovery syndrome is? We talk about engagement and communication. What's meeting recovery syndrome?
Assuming being disengaged for a short period of time after a meeting and needing to re-engage yourself.
Being disengaged a short period after a meeting. Yes. What would cause that disengagement? And that's where meeting recovery syndrome comes in. Say again? Overload of information. Maybe
Unnecessary meetings.
unnecessary meetings. Do you realize how much productivity is lost when people come out of a meeting and they say, what was that about? Sad but true. So as a leader, when you go to a meeting, if it's your meeting, be the first one in the room, be the first one on the Zoom. Have an agenda, have an objective, have time for questions and answers at the end. and have action items so that when people leave a meeting, they know exactly what's expected. So many times we're on a rush environment, right? So, hey, sorry I'm late, let's get started. And boom, you're off and running. Versus, hey, Pat, how's your weekend? Great, what'd you do? Hey, we're going to start off by sharing what we did over the weekend. Go around the horn. We're going to start off by saying something you appreciate about the other team members. Engage with something non-work related from the onset. You know what that does? It forces engagement with your team, gets them involved, and it lightens the air a little bit. And it also provides that connection on a more personal level. Talk to your teams about what they expect from meetings. What do they like? What don't they like? How am I doing? Are my meetings going okay? How can I get better? All right. I love Outlook. Another enhancement they made somewhere in the last year and a half is they started blocking out not an hour or half-hour blocks, but 15-minute blocks. Love that. If all you need is 5 or 10 minutes, then just book 15 minutes. One of my pet peeves, and my team knows this, so they crack up every time somebody uses it when I'm on a meeting call. I can give you 15 minutes back in your day. Take that. Why didn't you just book 15 minutes less of the time and know your material? Don't give me time back in my day. I've already got the time. You're not giving it back to me. Okay? For any of you who say that, I'm sorry if I offended you. It's a pet peeve. All right? Arguably, the most important meeting you're going to have, and hopefully the one that you never miss, is the one-on-one meeting. We talk about engagement, it doesn't get any closer than this. Whose meeting is this?
The producers.
It's the producers. She said both. It's the producers. It's their meeting. All too often, the one-on-one, if I'm the manager, I hold my one-on-one with you to tell you everything you're doing wrong and everything you're doing right and what I expect of you. We're going to talk about your this, that, and the other, and then off you go. It's all business. Not my meeting. That's going to be done in a team meeting. The one-on-one is your meeting. It's your time with me, alone, to talk about what's important to you. Now, if I empower you through the tools that I can show you, I can say, all right, during this meeting, I want you to bring your pipeline to show me where you are. I want you to bring your activity reports to see where you are. Then they're leading this meeting. Why should you have to spend time gathering all that data? Empower them. They'll appreciate it. Then they come in with you and they say, okay, here's my pipeline. Here's what's going on. I know I need more. I've got this, so therefore I'm forecasting that. And the pipeline tool that I could show you qualifies all the deals. And then whatever they have in their pipeline, it forecasts 30%. Because the deals either close, not close, or get pushed to the next month. So if they want to book 30K a month, they need to have 100K in their pipeline. Black and white, not emotional. So let them bring that to you. So yes, you're going to discuss their activity, but they're bringing it to you. They're going to lead that discussion. But what's also important about this meeting is asking what they need from you. What can I be doing to help you? And also taking a little bit of time. What else do you want to discuss? How are things at home? I understand your dog got run over by a car last week. I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't know why that just popped in my head. All right. But this is an opportunity for you to get to know your people as a person individually. Everybody's different. I need to know what makes you tick. I need to know what makes you tick. Okay, we talk about praise. Anybody read recently about the $450,000 birthday party?
Yeah. What happened? Guy didn't want his birthday party. The company went ahead and threw it anyway. He sued and got $450,000.
The guy doesn't like public praise or recognition, so he told his boss, do not throw me a birthday party. I don't want a birthday party. Boss threw him a birthday party. Freaked out, ran out of the office. High anxiety. Sued the company, won $450,000. All because the boss wasn't engaged and didn't listen to what this person wanted. He didn't know him as a person. He did what he wanted to do. How do you want a birthday party? I wonder if the boss is still there. They don't tell that side of the story. But you've got to know your people individually. That's the bottom line. Everybody's different. That one-on-one is a great opportunity. And it doesn't have to be long. My one-on-ones, 15 to 30 minutes max. I have a team of 3, it's very small. I do mine bi-weekly. So every other week, individually, my people know they're gonna get one-on-one with me. You can do it weekly, bi-weekly, try not to go beyond that. You don't let too much time elapse. All right? Again, for clarity and consistency, those are your best friends for fostering an environment of accountability. But we talked about remote workers. Does burnout occur more in the office or remote?
Remote.
Remote. You're absolutely right. Remote workers get more burnout because there's no definition, there's no separation of life and home. It's everything's one. Now, the good news about people working remotely, 9 times out of 10, they work longer and harder when they're at home because there's less distraction. The bad news, they work longer and harder when they're at home. If it's 11 o'clock at night and something pops into their head, they can reach for their laptop. They can grab their phone and they will do it. Because now all of a sudden, home is the workplace is the home. You get a little unhealthy. So we have to be sensitive to that and sometimes force them to not work. Meet their goals, exceed their goals, but have balance. Because burnout is going to happen there. So I know I've got about 5 minutes left. What do you guys do for fun?
Yeah.
With your teams? Yeah. Drink. Happy hours. Love it. What'd you do virtually? Drink. Good. Okay. Happy hours are a great thing to do. You can do it live or in person. Okay. What else did you do? What are some other things you've done for fun?
Sporting events or
Sporting events? Outings? Anybody do theme days? Virtually or in the office? Love that. Hat day, pajama day. Oh my gosh, hysterical. When we were virtual, we did pajama day. And I swear, it was like people thought it was the second coming. They loved it. They sat on the, I'm just saying. Dad hair day, hat day, team jersey day. We laugh, but people love this. Again, it's all about that connection, that belonging. If you're in the office and everybody comes in wearing their favorite team jersey, it's kind of cool. Sparks a discussion. I didn't know you were a Reds fan. People come to me and said, I didn't know you were a Washington football team fan. I'm so sorry. Because I am. Sidebar, I refuse to call them by their name. They will now forever be known to me as the Washington football team. There are games that you can play. There are, for those of you who are maybe 100% remote, there are platforms that you can put online that allow your people to compete with each other online and play games with each other. There are ways to do it. We've got to continually inject some fun. Because we tend to be in the Janet Jackson frame of mind, the 80s music reference. And what have you done for me lately? We ask a lot of our people, you gotta make it a little fun. You gotta make them, because that engagement, that sense of belonging, that sense of community, it will improve your retention, it will improve your productivity. And the engagement that you put on your people and engage with their people will directly impact the engagement they have with their candidates and clients. Data studies show it. All right? So in general, I'm not going to go through these line by line, but the best managers do these. All right? They are engaged. They do communicate. They disseminate information in a timely fashion. They trust their people. They foster that culture of accountability. They remain open-minded. As a leader, we don't have all the answers, nor should our team expect us to. We can learn a lot from our teams. Doesn't matter, they've only been in the business for a year. They've got ideas, we have to be open to them. Because if we've always done what we've always done, if we always do what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always got. If nothing changes, nothing changes. So we always have to be open-minded to try new things. If we want our people to try things we're asking them to do, we need to be open-minded. So lead by example. I'll rifle through these because the week is approaching rapidly. So hopefully, did we get a good idea of what engagement looks like?
yes.
Okay? We have a good sense of some easy tools which you will download, and you can feel free to reach out to me directly if you have questions about how you can foster a culture of accountability. Or you can get some fun. Those who are your employees and deal with them. Is it helpful?
Yes.
I don't know if I have time for questions or not. One question. Never afraid of it. I thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wow, that's a wrap. My man John Raffini there, rocking it out today. Hope you guys learned a lot. Before we leave, I want to give a shout out to some of the major sponsors here. Without these guys and women, would never have this possible. And also, I'm going to get a shout out to a couple of the speakers that was there today. Yeah, shout out to all you guys. You deserve it. And I think the biggest thing is thank you to the New Jersey Staffing Alliance for this podcast. What a great time. What a great opportunity. If you are in New Jersey, I got to tell you, just stop out there, reach out to them, join today because you could be there next year. Till next time, this is Richard the Staffing Shark. Take care and be safe. We'll see ya.